Hey guys, welcome back to Social Studies. We have been learning about the different types of communities. So on Monday, you guys learned about suburban communities. The week before that, we learned about urban communities. And just to give you a reminder, urban communities are those with tall buildings. It's very crowded and noisy. There's a lot going on in urban communities, right? Do you see all those tall buildings, the people, everything's close together? Here's another example. Again, tall buildings, lots going on. You can see the taxi cars here. Again, tall buildings, people walking on the side. These are urban communities, okay? Then we learned about suburban communities on Monday, like I said. And those are a lot of places where there's neighborhoods. And do you see how it's in the background? There's those tall buildings. It's not inside of those tall buildings, it's near it. So that's why it's called a suburban, because it's near the urban city, but it's a little bit to the side. They call it suburban. And there's where the houses are. It's a little bit quieter, a little bit more space. Again, a neighborhood with cars parked outside. And again, more neighborhoods with streets, yards, backyards. You can tell that it's a nice suburban community, okay? Today, we are going to be learning about one that is very different than urban and suburban. It's called rural. I know it's a hard word to say, rural. It's a lot of R's. So I'm going to show you how to write that. You're going to get a piece of paper, and on the very top, you're going to write the word rural. Rural. That's a tongue twister, so try to say it lots and lots of times. Rural. It's just too hard to say too many times. Anyways, you have your word up here, rural, and then you're going to draw something called a barn, which I labeled it a barn just so I could remember this is a barn. How I did that is I drew a big box first, then I drew the barn doors on the bottom, and then I drew like the roof part of it, and I labeled it barn. Notice I do have a lot of space to write, so just give yourself a lot of space to write. It does not have to be a perfect drawing. As long as you label it and say that it's a barn, you know that it's a barn, okay? So don't spend too much time trying to draw a barn. All that matters is that you have rural on the top, you have space to write, and then you draw something that looks kind of like a barn, okay? So hopefully you have this in your papers. Okay, let's go ahead and get started and learn about rural communities from a letter from someone who lives in a rural community. Oh, geez, it's going to do this to me again where it's hard to... Oh, well, lets me do that. Let's see if I can... Oh, here I am. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Oops, I don't want to share it with someone else. I want to present it. Okay, now it's nice and big. So it says, Dear students, hello, my name is Sam. I'm from River Falls, Nebraska. River Falls is a rural community. Rural communities are very quiet because there are not a lot of people, or not many people. So what I want you to write on your piece of paper is that we know rural communities are really quiet. So we're going to write the word quiet. If you don't know how to spell quiet, it's right here. And I have it on my paper as well, quiet. Okay, so it's quiet, and why is it quiet? Because there's not many people. So I might even put like a dash, not many people. So let me show you what that looks like and what you should put on your paper. Dash, not many people. That's why it's quiet. Okay, and then she says, in fact, only 1,095 people live in my town, compared to 8 million people living in New York City. So you can see there's way more people that live in New York City than in her rural community. I live on a farm where we raise chickens, cows, and goats. So, what else do we know about rural communities? Well, there's a lot of farmland and lots of farmers. So why don't we write the word farmer, farmers, because that's a lot of times what you see, a lot of farms with farmers doing their work, right? And what do they have on these farms? They have lots of farm animals like cows and sheep. Sheep. I'm not talking about animals like cats and dogs and turtles and whatever kind of bunnies, whatever kind of pets you guys have. I'm talking about farm animals, animals that you raise and you do something with them, right? So we're going to call them farm animals. If you want, you can give some examples. Like we have the cow and the sheep, and I'll show you how I do that on my piece of paper. So so far we have it's quiet because there's not many people, farmers. We have farm animals like cow and sheep. So you can write that down on your piece of paper. Then she says we also grow crops like corn and tomatoes. What are crops, you might be thinking? Well, if you go out to a farm, you're going to see that they're growing lots of stuff. So if you see here, these are crops. And I can't tell exactly what it is that they're growing there, but it might be tomatoes. Maybe it's carrots. Maybe it's corn. It can be all kinds of things. In Ohio, there's a lot of corn farms. That's the crop that a lot of times you'll see if you're driving around Ohio in the rural communities. So we have crops. Those are the things that they grow in the ground. Crops. So I'm going to write the word crops. And if you want, you can give an example. So I might put the word corn and tomato, or I'm just going to write corn. Just to remind myself that crops are things that are grown on the ground, like different foods. Corn, tomato, whatever you want to put. I put corn. Okay, let's keep reading. Sorry, I lost my place. Oh, corn and tomatoes. Most of what we need, we get from our own land. That's because we have to travel a far distance to get to the closest town that has grocery and department stores. What is she saying there? Well, she gets her food from the food that she grows in her house or near her house. All that land that she has, she's growing those crops, that corn, that tomato. They have cows for milk. They have all these different things to be able to make their own and grow their own food. So they might not need to go to the grocery store to get milk or meat or vegetables. They're already going to grow them. And also she said it's far away to get to place. You can't just go to the grocery store. It's not near there. It's very far. They have to drive for a long time before they get to a grocery store. So that's important to know. So what we might want to put, I'm about to sneeze, sorry guys. Oh my goodness. What we want to put is lots of space. There is a lot of space when you go to the rural community. And if you want to go anywhere, you're going to have to drive. So let's put lots of space. Very important to know. Lots of space. Okay, what's next? That's good because we have to travel for far distances to get to the closest town that has a grocery department stores. Even our own neighbors live 5 miles away. That means, you know how you're used to see your next door neighbor and they're right over there, you can walk to their house? If you live in a rural community, you can't just walk to your neighbor's house. Their neighbors are very far from them because they need all the land to grow their vegetables and all the things that they need, right? See how far this is? You can't even see a house out there. That's just how much space they have out there. Okay, let's keep reading. It says, one good thing about my town is that there's no traffic. We get where we need to go by car, but sometimes we take our tractor or four-wheeler if we're not going too far. I think you would love it here. I know I do. Come visit soon. Your friend, Sam. So the last thing that we can put is that sometimes they like to ride tractors or four-wheelers. So I'm going to put tractor. Tractor is this thing, which usually that you use a tractor if you're about to do work out in the field where the crops are, but sometimes they might ride their tractor just to go to some place that's really close to them. So oops, I spelled tractor wrong. I better look at this picture. It says tractor. You can also put the word four-wheeler if you want, which is right here, four-wheeler. All right, so on your paper, you should have these things. If you don't have them, stop my picture or my video and write them down on your paper. Okay, so hopefully you have exactly what I have on my piece of paper. And what I want to do is to end this time. You guys have done an amazing job of following along and learning about the different types of communities. I did want to show you some pictures of what it looks like in a rural community. And here's one picture. You'll see the barn and the animals out, the farm animals out, and look how much land there is. So much land. And you might be wondering, Mrs. Davis, I thought you said they weren't neighbors. Well, these are actually not neighbors. They're just different buildings that are owned by the same person. So they're all a part of one person's house and what they need for their work. Okay, and if you look here, look how much space there is, so much green. See, there's one house and their stuff, and then all the way over here is the next person's house and area. So lots of open space, as you can see. And then this is my last picture, which also shows you just how far away people are from each other. But you'll see they need like a lot of big buildings to store all their stuff, like their big tractors and all the vegetables that their crops that they get together, they might put in these big buildings. Also for the animals to sleep in, they're going to need places for that. So that's an urban or a rural community. Okay, guys? I'm excited to see your picture of a barn and your notes that you took. And I hope you're already starting to think, have I ever been to a rural community? I know none of you guys live in a rural community because it would take a while to get to school if you were already in a rural community. So I hope you enjoyed learning about the 3 different types of communities.